o'clock, so we're going to get started because I know you all are busy. And so we're going to go ahead. And we are going to talk today about report utilization for individual residents. So just diving in more on individual resident charting and tracking engagement to personalize care and document outcomes. And I'm also not very formal. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box, and I know other people will help me answer those questions, but also feel free to get off of mute and ask the question. So it's just easier and more fun to have better communication on this. So just feel free to interrupt me if you'd like and ask a question before I move forward. All right, and we'll go ahead and go. All right. So we're talking about from data to stories. Today, we're going to focus on using data to create meaningful resident experiences and measurable outcomes. Charting gives us numbers, but personalization tells the story. So we are looking at a wellness holistic perspective, group participation. It's important for socialization and community building. We all know that. We all love group participation. We all want group participation, but then we have a lot of residents that are very independent. And independent engagement is just as important as well. It is vital for cognitive and emotional wellness. And then having the balance is key, using engagement reports to evaluate total engagement, group, and independent. So for example, a resident who declines group trivia but spends hours reading historical novels is still actively engaged in a meaningful way. Do any of you all have residents that continue to decline group activities, but they are very independently engaged? Yes. Okay. I know we probably have a lot of those residents out there. Wellness extends beyond group activities, so engagement in independent pursuits is equally important. A resident who actively engages in reading puzzles or independent hobbies may be thriving, even if they don't attend many group programs. So we're just going to kind of go into that a little bit more and just talking about how we can, it's still important for us to be able to reach those residents that are independent. And I'm sure that you all are still checking on those residents that are independent. Does any of you have any specific things that you do for residents that are really independent but are still actively engaged? Anyone want to share? Anybody? Okay. That is okay. I just was curious to see if there's any unique things that you all are doing for your independent residents. So our next slide is about reviewing engagement reports quarterly and annually. So Health Center, review resident engagement reports quarterly, and we're going to talk more about those and show you those resident engagement reports. Use these reports to complete accurate progress notes, update activity care plans, and prepare for those resident first meetings. Assisted living is review engagement reports biannually to ensure programming aligns with resident preferences and wellness goals, prepare for those resident first meetings and annual assessments. So why it matters. We want to provide a snapshot of each resident's wellness and engagement trends and identify opportunities for re-engagement or program adjustments. So those resident first meetings are very important. Do all of you go to your health center resident first meetings, or most of them if you can? Yeah. What about, is anybody going to their assisted living resident first meetings?
I try to when I'm invited.
Yeah.
But they don't always let us know when they're happening.
Yeah. I feel like that is kind of, I've noticed that a lot even in the campuses that I support as well. And even when I was in life enrichment director, I didn't know for a while that they were even having resident first meetings for assisted living. And they happen, every 6 months. And so the communication with your AL director or even your director of nursing is important, just to, let them be aware that you would like to, be there if you were able to. I know that you all are really busy with, especially with health center, those resident first meetings happen quite frequently. But just, if you're able to, especially those residents that might not be very engaged, or you don't have like maybe a close relationship with the family for assisted living, I would definitely reach out to your AL director and just have them, at least involve you or let you know when those are coming up so that you can kind of engage with the family a little bit more, the resident, because those meetings are really important. And then just showing them that resident engagement report from LifeLoop that we're going to go over is just going to be so helpful for the families. And really, that's kind of the goal, is to be able to have these engagement reports ready for those resident first meetings so you can share with the families. So using engagement data for accurate progress notes, steps for preparing progress notes, observation, and health center. So first, you would want to pull, so this is whenever you're doing those progress notes, every 3 months, you're going to pull that individual resident engagement report in LifeLoop, and then complete the progress note observations. So analyze participation trends to identify preferences and changes in engagement. And then you also want to update the activity care plan to reflect those current participation preferences. So some key notes there is to note patterns of consistent participation and highlight.
We can't hear you, Rebecca. I think you got muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, that was weird. I didn't even touch anything. How long do I need to repeat that slide? Anybody?
Not the whole slide. I would just go
Okay.
like a few seconds back.
Okay. So you're going to note any patterns of consistent participation in these observation notes, and then highlight any changes in engagement, so increases or declines, and use the data to guide one-on-one activities or adjustments in programming. So a really good example I have of this is that I had a resident that whenever they first moved in said that they were really interested in outdoor activities. And they just kept saying, through our initial assessment with them, that they really enjoyed outdoor activities. And so we would continue to meet with this person. They didn't come to any group activities. So on our one-on-ones, we would continue to meet with them, talk about going outside, and ask them if they wanted us to take them outside. And we continually, he was declining these things. And so it is so important on that care plan to note on the observation. Well, you start with the observation, and to put that he was continually declining those outdoor activities, and then changing that in the care plan as well. Because we just don't want we want the care plan to reflect exactly what the residents are interested in at the moment. And so making sure that that care plan is updated, and also that the charting for those declines, if for that resident declining, we had to put declines for that he did not want to go outside. So just kind of making sure that everything matches up, that their care plan does reflect what they're doing. And even in LifeLoop, the charting also reflects that as well. So we just want to make sure that that is, all matches up. Any questions about that? Okay. Even if you see interest, if you see increasing engagement in a resident that maybe loves art or happy hour or just those type of things, just noticing that if they're continually to come to those art activities or happy hour or whatever, making sure that that's also updated on the care plan, so that way it tracks that we know that they're interested in this and that we're charting for this as well. So those are very important. And then sharing the impact with families. So resident first meetings occur upon admission, quarterly, and biannually for assisted living or as needed. So showcase the resident progress using those engagement reports. So what to share? That LifeLoop attendance report showing the resident participation any key highlights of the residents' engagement and any updates to the care plan, and then examples of successes, stories, or meaningful moments, sharing that with the family, and then opportunities for family involvement. So volunteering, getting them on the LifeLoop app, those would all be really great things to share in that resident first meeting. And then also just discussing any wellness and engagement with families, and then sharing how the life management team is supporting their loved one. So for example, this is something that you could share with a family is during a recent art session, Mrs. Smith painted a beautiful landscape. She mentioned it reminded her of her childhood home, and we've added more nature-themed programs to the calendar based on her interests. So just sharing those moments with the family, sharing those highlights, especially in those resident first meetings, sometimes they're not very positive. If if their resident is declining, there's just a lot of things that the families are dealing with and a lot of decisions that they have to make sometimes in those meetings. So if we can provide any type of positivity, sharing these moments that we're having with the resident in our activities, it would be so great to share for the families because, they definitely need to hear those things. I had an LEA that was so good at sharing literally anything with the family. She would see a family member in a hallway and she would go after them and she would say, so-and-so participated in our activity, or I stopped in so-and-so's room and we had a great discussion. Like she would just share literally anything with the families and they loved it so much. And it was so helpful to our program and just our relationship with them. So any chance she got, she was just sharing and promoting our program. And it was just such good practice for us and so good for the families as well. So I definitely encourage you all to do that and then share that with your LEAs as well, just to share any positive things that we can with those families. And then we have some really awesome tools for you all that you could use. So this first tool that you can see an example of is the Resident First Meeting Guide for LEDs, and it outlines steps to prepare and conduct effective meetings. So it really just goes in order of what you should do and just some different ideas that you could do. And then another tool is our engagement reports that I'm going to show you, and then stories or photos. All right, so now I'm going to show you on LifeLoop some different, first I'll show you the attendance reports and then just some other things as well that you might find useful. So I'm going to I'm at Fritz Farm today and I think Renee is on the call. I'm going to pick on her campus. She honestly does such a great job at charting and all of the things. So it's perfect campus to pick on today. So I am on the dashboard here. This is right when you go into the LifeLoop. And some things that I want to highlight that you all know these numbers. You guys, I know even before we started talking about these numbers, I know the LEDs were looking at these. They were looking at these percentages. There's competitions and all that thing, all those things. So what I want to talk about is this trending down. You guys have seen this number of residents with negative activity changes in the past week. So this could be anything, as if there's just any small change, even if it's like a few less activities that they attended this week, this number would show up here. And you can even click on that and it'll show you which residents did not participate in as many activities as they normally do in the past week. And then we have the trending up number. So that's, of course, any positive activity changes. And then we have this beautiful percentage right here, the 88% for Fritz Farm. And then this will show you any residents who attended at least one activity in the past week. And this number does count your personal activities. So if you're doing one-on-ones or any of those independent activities that we're charting, this number does show that. If you click on it, and then it says 0 last week. So these are the residents that didn't participate in any group activities last week. So that's just something to look at. And you can filter it right here. So you can see that we're on 0 last week right now. And that's just the filter that we have on this. And if you do click on it, like I actually did check on this resident already today, but if you go to her activity feed, this is where you will see, this is the engagement report that we're talking about whenever we are talking about bringing this report to the resident first meetings. This is what you want to do, and I'll show you a different way to get to it as well. But this is her profile, and it shows you all of the activities that she has participated in. And now this resident does, she does not like to attend group activities. And so they are doing a great job of checking on one-on-ones and getting those visits. Renee also, I'm just giving a shout out to Renee. She always does so good with those detailing what happens in those one-on-one meetings as well. Renee says we're usually at 95% or above. She doesn't like this 88%. Sorry, Renee, I'm picking on you. But 88 is still great, especially when she's, she's all by herself basically. So Renee, you're doing great. And so this is where you will see that individual report. And I'll show you another way, which you all probably know, but just in case, you go to the resident tab over here on the side, and then that will show you all of your residents. And so this blue graph right here, it actually shows your attendance trends based on the last 10 weeks. And so that's why that number is changing, especially, like campus like this, constant turnover in rehab to home residents. So that's why there's gonna be residents that haven't been charted on and they just moved in. There's a lot of that here, and I'm sure a lot of you experience that as well. So that's what that blue graph means, is the last 10 weeks. And so just to keep an eye on that if you see declines and see it declining. But then you can also go to click on a resident here if you have a resident first meeting with them, and then you go to their activity feed. And then that will show you the past month right here. It's already on this filter. You can do the past year if you really want to. And then, of course, a custom range. So that progress note that you're doing, it's supposed to be the last 3 months of activities that you want to look at. And then, so you can go back 3 months and then click on that date. So then you can get an accurate reading for your progress notes. So there's that. And then whenever you want to create a report for your family, you will just click create report right here. And then you can just click print. And it might just take a second. And then you can print it this way if you would like. This is the portrait mode. You can also print it on landscape mode as well, just whatever you're feeling like. But it actually does fit both ways. And you can, it might not be, these percentages aren't like, in my opinion, they don't look the greatest, but it does show you a really great picture of all the activities that they've done. And even though this resident is mostly one-on-one, look at all of that charting that's been done. That's amazing. So, so Renee, I'm sorry, she doesn't want me to pick on her. I'm sorry, Renee. She said, what did you say, Renee? Both of the residents I picked on? It's okay. It is okay. Here. So anyways, so that is how you can see the resident charting there and their engagement reports. Does anyone have any questions, or everyone know where to find that? I'm going to take that as a yes if no one said anything. Okay. Oh, one quick thing that I want to show you, which is a new thing. Renee, I'm going to find someone that has really great engagement. Okay. All right, so this resident attended 67 activities in the last month. So she's very involved. And then one thing that you can do, which I think is really cool, is if you're checking to see, let's say on your care plan, this resident is really interested in church or something like that, and you want to make sure that they are getting charted on. If you go to filters over here, you can choose the type, so you just can choose activity. And then if you click in church or whatever your whatever you describe it on your calendar. So here they say Sunday sermon. And so you can click that, and then that will show you exactly the activities that they attended. And so if you have families asking like, oh, my resident or my family member is Catholic and I don't know when they're getting communion, then you can literally, I don't think this resident's Catholic, but you can search that in and it'll show you exactly all the last times that they have that they've gotten communion or gone outside or things like that. So that's why that charting is also important too. I've had some family members in my day that have been very specific and asked about love on a leash or something. And so we have to find it, and it's just a lot easier to find it that way. Any questions about that? And you
I
can
have one.
get off
This
mute.
is,
Yes.
I have one question. I noticed on her form, she had one-on-one there.
Mhm.
My question is, where's the best place to put that? I know we were putting it in independent activity, one-on-one, and had it as a choice, that we had to change it back to the standard list. Where else should that be?
Are you talking about like a personal activity like right here?
If we do a one-on-one with a resident that,
Yeah.
isn't, where's the best place to chart that? If it's
Yeah,
not a
so
choice on your list.
oh, it should definitely be a choice on your list unless I'm
I thought so, but we went back to the basic list and it wasn't on there. It was other. So we can have it put in as one-on-one on that list.
Yes, Danielle, I don't know if you're I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, it should be one-on-one, should be
Okay.
on that list. Jessica, I know I see your face. Did you hear that question as well? Jessica Strasbaugh.
Yeah, so it should be an option on the
Or Danielle, okay.
one-on-one, on the personal activity. That's the only way that we can chart one-on-one in Life
Yeah.
Loop. So I
Yeah.
will double check the flyer that we shared a couple weeks ago to make sure, but I believe it should be there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I may have overlooked it, but I honestly didn't see it if it was there.
Well, someone else says I second that. Okay, well, we'll have to check that and make sure
Okay, thank
that
you.
you have one-on-one on there. Thank you. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, we didn't want to have one-on-one on there, so that way we know that they were getting one-on-ones done. Oh, Crystal says it's not there either. Okay. That's very strange. Okay, well, thank you guys for pointing that out. Is there any other questions that you all have? Okay, any questions about this life loop? And then we have a few more slides. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Renee, for letting me pick on you. You're doing an amazing job. Okay. All right. Moving on. Get my notes here. Okay. Using data to drive wellness and engagement, what to look for. Trends in engagement, compare current participation with previous periods. Activity preferences, identify high attendance and preferred activities. And then declining participation, spot patterns of reduced engagement and address them. So action steps with that is to adjust programming to emphasize preferred activities, schedule one-on-one sessions for residents with declining engagement, and then use the data to create measurable goals for resident wellness. And something that I am going to show you all is this new tool that we created. And it's basically a root analysis of just figuring out why or overcoming low attendance in your activities. And so I'm going to ask you guys a few questions here so we can get some more involvement. So basically, these are different categories that you can ask yourself, ask your team about why am I getting low attendance in our activities? And then what are some ways that we can change how we're doing things, or what do we need to look at to increase participation? So we have the time and scheduling. One of the questions here is, have you tested different time slots to see which works best for your specific group of residents? So that is just an example here, and there's a lot of different examples of just looking at the time. Another question is the activity clashing with other popular events, meal times, or routines. So really focusing on that time and scheduling. And I know that every month I treated it as a brand new month. My residents were just used to me kind of changing things up just so I could figure out like the perfect time slots for these activities, especially when I first started. And there were definitely some things that I was not allowed to change. Like we always had 4 o'clock exercise every day on PC. And that was something that would not change. And a few years later, they are still doing 4 o'clock exercise on PC. But those other activities, we need to, we can change times around to get more attendance. We have communication and promotion. So if you're getting low attendance, and some ideas are to assign LEAs to specific hallways to track trends and improve accountability. You can call it like adopt a hallway, have an LEA, focus on the 400 hallway and that attendance or that personal activities. Yes, we'll make sure to send this out as well so you guys can have this, and I'll show you where you can find it. It's actually on Compass, so I will show you where to find that. Don't let me forget if I forget. And then we have relevance and resident preferences. So is your resident engagement committee engaging and motivating? Have you gathered feedback recently from your residents? And then the next section is about engagement and leadership. And then looking at your LEAs, is the leader the right fit for the role? Who's leading the activity? It might be a volunteer. Are they really the right fit to lead this activity if we continue to get low attendance? Just something to look at. Are the team members involved in planning and offering input? So I think that is very important to make sure that our LEAs are involved in the planning and also just tuning into what their skills are and their passions are, and then having them lead those classes. And I specifically called it out on my calendar. I had Bible study with Missy was one of my LEAs. And so I made sure that I put that on there, and the residents just loved seeing that as well. And she was really great at it. So that was what we did. And then one of my other LEAs was so good at cooking and planning that stuff out. So I literally told her, I was like, I need 4 cooking activities this month. And then she did it. And then it was a lot less planning on my part. So just kind of delegating that as well and tuning into what your LEA's skills are could create more just engagement with your residents. And then the last category to look at is the environment and logistics. So is the activity space accessible and comfortable for all residents? That's a question asked. I know some campuses, the activity room is the coldest room in the building. I don't know if that's how you all are, but I feel like it's a common theme is somehow the activity room is so cold. So just making sure that we're looking at that, talking to your plan ops about that, because that was really a problem at one of our campuses is that it was so cold that the residents didn't want to come. And then that's why we were getting low attendance. So these are some just great questions to look for, and I'll show you at the end where to find that on Compass. Any questions about any of this? Okay. We'll go back here. Okay. And then we have some call to action. So just some action steps for you all. So regular reviewing these engagement reports, quarterly for health center and annually for assisted living. So use accurate data to prepare progress notes and update those care plans, and then share meaningful insights during the resident first meetings to strengthen the family relationships. And then our 2025 engagement goal is every resident counts. Engagement looks different for everybody, but one of our engagement goals for 2025 is we are going to go ahead and say that we are stating that 85% is going to be our standard. That's what we want in our campuses is to be above 85%. And this does not include if you have an IL, this does not include IL. So if you are looking at your dashboard, you can uncheck your IL and see what your engagement percentage is that way. But that is what we want to strive for is that 85%. But engagement does look different for everybody. Some residents thrive in group settings while others prefer those independent activities. So we just need to make sure we're tracking and adapting the engagement efforts to ensure we meet the residents' needs effectively. And so then we have, I already showed you guys that root cause analysis, the low attendance report, but then I also want to show you, this might be helpful for you all, is that we have life loop reports, the how-to. So on all of these webinars, hopefully you've been able to attend them all. There's been 3 separate ones, and we went through different reports on life loop. And so I'm going to show you how to find that on Compass. So, okay, so there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, but if you go to Life Enrichment, and it's also our Legacy tab as well, and then if you go to Documents, and then if you scroll down, it is titled Resident Engagement is the folder, and that is where you can find this engagement analytics root cause analysis, and then also the life loop reports. So you can also type those in. I am just prone to, I just type everything into the search bar. That is where I find everything, but that is the way to get to it if you want to look at it that way. But I wanted to show you all this report that could be very helpful for you. It is all of the steps on how to look at all the reports on Life Loop. So it just basically goes step by step. This first one was from Module 1, how to add IN12 content to an activity. Tells you all of the steps there. Filter your calendar to see the standards, all of this stuff. So it is a few pages long, but it does show you if you really want to dive in and look at that. That is how you look at all those things. And then Module 3 is at the bottom. And that is what I just went over right here. So if you needed more steps on how we did that, and that is where you'll find it. So go in Compass. You'll find it in Compass. But is there any other questions that you have for us? And then we'll be all done. Anything at all that you all need? Questions about Life Loop or any of those reports or anything? All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you think of questions later, don't feel free to reach out to your LES to help you with those types of things. But we appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And go CSS.